Good morning. Good morning. So, welcome to our service. My name is Heather. My pronouns are both she and they. We would like for you to please take this opportunity to silence all electronic devices, like perhaps this one. Thank you to Laura and the rest of the choir for that lovely song before we get started. And we would like to welcome any guests that we have with us today, as well as all of you. So if this is your first time or perhaps your 100th time, then we're just so very glad to have you here with us this morning. If you would like to receive communication about us, we have these guest cards that are found outside on the credenza that is to the left. You can return those to the greeters. You can also leave them on the credenza, or you can place them in the offering basket when it is passed around a little bit later in the service. We don't have a written order of service, but you've been provided a small little booklet that has information about us, and inside of it also it should have a slip of paper so that you can write any joys or sorrows that you wish to share with us. You can also put the slip of paper for your joys or sorrows into the offering basket when it is passed around. And we do have a couple of announcements. I know Lori Winterberg wanted to come up to speak with us about one announcement.
Thanks, Heather. If you're on our mailing list or have even noticed things hanging on the windows and areas in the church, you've noticed a reference to something called a gift certificate mart. It's something that's going on now, live. It is where you can purchase a, I'm going to air quote, certificate for a service or baked goods, a dinner party, a brunch, artisan breads, arts and craft classes, handyman services, all kinds of things are available for purchase. It's all online, and it's quite easy to navigate. Both Linda Cobb, and Linda's in the back, and myself, we have our tablets with us today. So if you want to, and if you want to kind of get a look at the catalog and see what all is available, we'll be out and about in the lobby to kind of show you what's available. Some things have been sold. There's a lot that's still available. The store will be open until the 15th of June. And while we're here, we happen to have two donors right available here. And Heather, tell us what the people can buy.
So something that is on the gift certificate mart that I've donated is a holiday card making class. So it would be held here, date to be determined, but we are going to make a mixed media box of holiday cards, and it's going to feature the Aurora Borealis and a penguin looking at the Aurora Borealis.
And Daniel, what can the people look forward to?
Do you need a wall painted? Do you have some base trim that just looks horrible and needs to get replaced? Maybe you have a light that needs hanging, or man, that cabinet's really ugly and I would just really like to replace it. Well, buy Daniel's Handyman gift certificate and you can get these things done. There's all kinds of things that I can do. If you have a question about what you might be able to get done before you buy it, please feel free to ask. And, if it runs a little over the time frame, we're not going to sweat things. So, yeah. Thank you.
So between arts and crafts, handyman, yard work, car detailing, Reese's peanut butter cup cake, vegetarian Italian dinners. It's all out there, very reasonably priced, and like I say, you gotta eat sometime. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. We also have a couple more announcements. Next Sunday, June 12th, we will be honoring Pride Month. Join us to hear about the Rainbow Connection, and our youth will share their perspective. And I know also next Sunday, the 12th as well, we are having our going away party for Aaron and Jeff right after the service at, I believe, 11:30. And then also Trista wanted me to announce that we have a second hour. It is today, I believe. Yeah, it's today. It's been the ongoing second hour book series that she's been leading with everyone. So if you are a part of that, please take note that that is happening today. I don't believe there are any other announcements. Okay. So now we're going to move on to the chalice lighting. And the words for our chalice lighting are by Maya Angelou. We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads of this tapestry are equal in value, no matter what their color. And now we're going to enjoy a little bit of centering music. And now we have some opening words. They are by Dorothy Day. We have all known the long loneliness, and we have learned that the only solution is love, and that love comes with community. And now please rise as you are willing and able, so that way we can recite the covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And you may remain standing. We are going to sing our opening hymn. It is number 134, Our World is One World. And now you may be seated. We are going to move into Time for All Ages. And if I could have about 8 to 10 participants of any age to come up here for a little game. I promise I don't bite.
Older people come too? Yes.
Yes, all the young at heart are invited too. No, you should say. Yes. Your farewell here. All right, awesome. So for this game, we're going to play Silent Line. No talking, but you have to arrange yourselves alphabetical order by last name. Go. All right.
I started an R. I know it's supposed to be one.
So, as you can see, something that really helped our participants was the use of hand gestures. Now, what if I had said that they couldn't talk and they couldn't use hand gestures? What if I had said that they had to arrange themselves by maybe height order, smallest to largest, or maybe by age, something maybe not so readily visible? Just think about for a second, maybe how, if you were participating, how might you go about it if you were in that situation? But the point that I want to make is, no matter what tools you do or maybe don't have, the point is everyone had to work together somehow to be able to arrange themselves in the way that I asked them to. And no matter what challenge that I might ask them, that they could overcome it. No matter what limitations, with enough time, enough imagination, creativity, and enough teamwork, they'd be able to solve it. So just a little something to think about. I could ask you so many other what if questions, but this is just a nice little illustration and a very simple way to be able to clearly illustrate how powerful community can be. So everyone can sit down. Very good job. And thank you for everyone participating. And now, if you would join me in singing the children out. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. And since we're on the topic of community, this church would not be what we are today and what we have been without everyone in this community here being able to give what they are able to give. And for some people, we talk about, the 3 T's, time, treasure, and talent. And for some people, maybe they don't have a lot of time. Maybe, they feel, well, I don't have any skills, even though I don't think that's true. Everybody has some skill that they can offer. But for some people, treasure is the thing that they are most able to give. And at this time, we would gratefully accept for the offering basket any treasure that you could give to donate to us.
Lisa Rawson has 2 joys that she would like to share with us today. Number 1, my dog Coco had 4 healthy puppies. I've seen them, they're all very cute. They look like little weasels still, but they'll turn into proper dogs soon. And number 2, she will be traveling for the next month to Colorado and then to Atlanta, where her grandson is going to be born in early July. So babies all around for Lisa Rawson. Marcy has a concern for Judy. Her joy is for a cousin who is recovering from an illness. That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Trista. Tomorrow, she is leaving for her solo road trip to Taos, New Mexico. I didn't know if I pronounced the S or not. Taos, New Mexico. She says, I will miss you all, and I will see you in mid-July. Around the same time as those babies are getting born. Chris Brockaway, she has a joy and a sorrow to share. Her joy, her aunt sold her house. Awesome. Sorrow, we had to put Ace, our foster, to sleep. That's a shame. Denise, she has a concern to share. Her mother-in-law, Lily, fell earlier this week. She has no broken bones, and please keep her in your thoughts. She is 88 years old, so we certainly hope and pray for a speedy recovery. Scott wanted to recognize Monty Malcastle's service during World War II as a fighter pilot, but also his service to Veterans for Peace. Thank you, Scott. Certainly a very generous man with his time and his efforts. Georgiana. Flo Fulwile, our longest living member, she's 99, took a fall a week ago. She broke bones in her left hand, and she has a serious gash in her left knee and bruises to her face. She is in good spirits. She is at the Olive Branch Rehab Center on University Parkway and would like visitors or cards. Afternoons are best as she goes to therapy in the morning. She will turn 100 later this month. Wow, a whole century on this earth. Well, I'm glad that it isn't worse, so that's excellent, so yes. And one more candle lit for all the joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts that remain unspoken. Do you have your hand up, ma'am?
Yeah, I didn't have a slip to put in. My roommate's sister fell and broke her hip.
Oh. A lot of falls this week. So we certainly hope for a speedy recovery for everybody who sustained an injury this week. Thank you. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to our message. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? Awesome. Let me pull this just a little higher up. There we go. Earlier, we heard a quote. We have all known the long loneliness, and we have learned that the only solution is love, and the love that comes with community. Wow. That's a really powerful quote to me. It hits me right here in a way that really sort of gives me the chills, and I think it does that probably a little bit for all of us, because that's one of the most shared human experiences that we have. Of course, we know another quote that we say jokingly, there's only 2 sure things in life, and that's death and taxes. But there's a few other things that we all share. We share a sense of community, whether or not we fully participated. We know about it. I think we long for it in the deep part of our hearts. And I think that's where that other shared experience, the loneliness, can come from. All of us at some point or another have felt lonely. And it does terrible things to you. We heard last week about all the horrible effects that loneliness can have on a person, that it's worse for you than smoking, it's worse for you than drinking, it's worse than being overweight, and it's worse than all those things combined. To be lonely, to not have somebody with you. So the way we combat loneliness is community, and yet that's something that we seem to lose sight of in our lives. Because community is the spirit of what it means to be a human being. It's the pulsing heart of everything that we do, and it's the loftiest goal that we can aspire to. Community allows us to achieve so much more than you possibly can alone. For instance, Bill, you worked in NASA, right? How many people ever flew a rocket alone? It's inconceivable, right? Like, you can't do that. You really, how many people do you think it took to build this building? Was it one person? How many people came together to make this shirt? One person that got it to me, distributed it, and sold it to me? The point is that look how many people have to come together. This presentation, did I do it alone? Spoiler alert, she did most of the work. So, no. You have to come together to make things possible. It's only by community that human beings are able to achieve anything that's worth talking about. I guarantee you, any artist, any writer, anyone that you look at and you say, man, she was so great at what she did there. It wasn't just them. It was the people who brought them up. It was the people who taught them. It was the people who made the paint. It was the people who printed the words. You can't achieve things alone. And yet, for some reason, we want to isolate ourselves in this country. Look at Facebook and the web. What is that but a giant experiment in community? That's all it is. It's a communal gathering of information, of sharing, of togetherness, but it feels lacking in some really important way. There's something hollow about it, something that doesn't provide the need that we have. In fact, we find that a lot of people who that's their sole means of community report that they're more lonely than people who are hermits, even. So we all feel like I can't speak for everyone, but I've heard a lot of people say it, that we all feel like there's something lacking in our American way of life, like we lost something. This is a common refrain you hear from a lot of people, that there's something missing nowadays. And for proof of that, we've had 200 mass shootings this year alone. 200. That is awful. And a lot of people want to talk about how that's a result of needing to control guns more, and that's not a debate that I'm going to wade into, but I will say that to me is more a point of failing of the community, because it's a lot harder to go and take that kind of action against a community that you're invested in, against people that you care about, that you don't feel dispossessed from, that you feel one with. I mean, it's just like trying to punch yourself in the head. You can't do it. Like, that's part of you. You can't harm yourself in that way. We've fallen prey to xenophobia in this country. It's on the news. It's in our hearts. Your neighbors. We hardly know our neighbors anymore. How many of us don't even talk to our neighbors on a weekly basis, a monthly basis? There's so much xenophobia running around out there. We hear it on the news reports every day. There's a new bad guy out there who's going to get you. And so you better hunker down and get safe, because they're coming for you, aren't they? All of them are coming for you. And that's not the way it has to be. Is that what human nature is, ultimately? Are people coming to get you? Is that loneliness, does it have to be part of us? Do we have to be afraid of that? And I say no. There are other places, other countries that do an exemplary job of showing what community can do, how much caring there can be out there. This is a great, for instance, we've taken to watching this show on Netflix. It's called Old Enough, and if you haven't seen it, you should. It's absolutely heartbreaking and tense and joyful and amazing. And what it is it's highlighting a custom that exists in Japan called the first errand. And it's where young kids, like we're talking 3-4 years old, go out to perform an errand for their family. And I've seen episodes now where these kids are walking miles throughout the course. A 3-year-old goes out on I think it wound up being a 4-mile long journey out and back to go to the store, pick up several things, grab a watch, come back, and all the while that this is going on, they're in a city with cars constantly going by. And you couldn't do that in America, could you? You'd be scared to let your kid go out there. You're like, oh no, someone's going to snatch him up like that. But it doesn't have to be that way, because we see in this show, these kids go down the street, everybody knows who that child is. Everybody knows they're on their first errand, they're looking out for them, they're helping them. There's this sense of, you know everyone around you. And mind you, this is a city. This is not your neighborhood where there's maybe 100, 150 individuals to get to know. No, there's thousands. And all of these people know each other and they work together in concert. And that just seems lacking from where we are today. And it presents itself in a lot of different ways. We see different ways that community could be done differently. This is a good, for instance, we just had our budget, we just confirmed that, and this is no disrespect to you guys, please understand, because you guys did an excellent job balancing a very hard decision. But it points out to me, and it hurts me in my heart just a little bit, that we can't actually budget for our community, for us, being able to come together and take on some of the tasks. We don't feel comfortable putting that down in a real tangible form to say that, okay, well, these are the things that we can accomplish together, that we don't need to earmark for this, that, or the other, because we as a group, we can do that. That we have already set it in our minds and built the strong enough bonds to accomplish that task. That's something that I would love to see. I think that's something that we can come together as a people, not just here, but all across the world and do if we just tear down the walls, as we heard earlier, and instead decide to build bridges. So, I don't have statistics and figures for you. I don't know how to look these things up or quantify them. I don't even really know what questions to ask or what exactly the problem is. So what I'd like to do today is, in the spirit of community, call on community, call upon all of you, that together maybe we can have a discussion and start figuring out some of these things. So we're going to have to set some ground rules because it's a discussion. We're going to have a couple of microphones. I believe Hugh-Ed is going to be over there with one microphone, and we've got Wash over there with the blue microphone. And they're going to be coming around as you hold up your hands to say various things. Heather is going to be writing responses on the giant notepad that we have here that I'm sure you're all wondering, well, what in the world is a notepad doing there? It's to help keep us on track, to make it so that we can easily reference back and say, okay. And I want to say, of course, that there are no bad ideas at all. Every great thing that ever happened started with somebody who said, well, hear me out, because I know this sounds crazy, but, so feel free to say your crazy idea. It's all right. Maybe even if it doesn't do it for you, it's going to spark something in somebody else. That's the point of community. You don't always know what you're contributing, but at the end of the day, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So, we're going to ask several questions, and I would like everyone, if you can, to please stay within the frame of the question that we've asked. When they're asking what is the problem, don't give us a solution yet. When we're asking for solutions, we've moved on from what the problems are. All right, and so we're going to go ahead and start. Our first question that I would like to see if we can answer as a group is, what is the problem? Why do we have a lack of community in our lives? And this can be about America in general, it can be about the world in general, and it can be about right here in our church. Yes, ma'am. We have a hand up. Wash is coming around.
I think fear is one of the largest problems that we have. So fear.
Fear. Let's put that on the board. Does anyone else have any idea of what the problem is that we're facing, and maybe even why we feel this fear? Yes. Watch right over here. Wait for the microphone. Yes, there we go.
Divided and misrepresented media. Would you repeat, please?
The divided and misrepresented media. I think Kate's tried to say that the talking heads often have not too much to talk about, and so they sometimes are making divisive issues more divisive. We have a hand right over here. Hold on, Ed.
Okay, we don't know what is truth, and we don't know who to trust.
And then we have right over here, Hugh.
Hatred and discrimination.
Give a chance to tack up.
Yes.
Lack of empathy.
Lack of empathy. And Hugh?
Self-protection.
Self-rejection?
Protection.
Self-protection. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you. Yes, Hugh, right over here.
In the U.S., there is a decline in ethnic identification.
I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of feedback.
No. Please, let him do that.
I was saying that in the United States, there's a decline in ethnic identification. There used to be Jewish groups, Italian groups, Greek groups. Now that is a negative in the United States now. But people coming together because they were birth-based, and the decline in that identification, I think, is part of the problem that has happened in the United States. And that's not something that is regarded as something holy, but I think that's one of the causes of what's happening in the United States, the decline of the birth-based groups. They used to come together. Jews were Jews together. Italian were so were the Polish, and so on and so forth. And that's one reason.
Thank you. So we're going to say a declining of ethnic identity there. And I think that is a great point. And we've even, like you said, seen it go to the negative because we see even groups being hated on. Now, I mean, that's been throughout the course of history, but we definitely latch on to some of those ethnic groups sometimes and say they're the problem. And we shouldn't do that. We have a hand, yes, right over here with Aaron.
We're creatures of habit. We live the way that we were taught. I think that the problem is that this is how we've always been, and we don't know anything different. And there's a great need for change. And yeah.
So one of the problems being that we just kind of get stuck in that rut and that we don't want to change our way of thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The fear and all the other things, and the lack of information, knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Right over here with Tristan.
I think we have perhaps a lack of asking questions, assumptions, hubris, lack of humility. That's it.
And we kind of think we know it all, and we don't want to know anything else. That goes very nicely into what Aaron said about getting stuck in that rut. It's hard to admit sometimes that you don't know everything. Guilty as charged. Right over here with you.
Religious fundamentalism.
And politics.
A common refrain of the UU Church, yes. Fundamentalism, I think, in any nature is a barrier to moving forward in success because, again, it goes in that whole, I already know everything, it's already perfect, we don't need to know anything else. Yes?
I think over the last couple of centuries, or decades, not centuries, we have stopped teaching our children how to respectfully listen to other people's opinions.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think being taught to live in a lack of abundance, being taught to live in lack, where, you know, there's so much to be grateful for. What's portrayed in the media and in overall society is lack rather than being grateful for. There's so many things to be grateful for. Start from the breath to being able to walk, to be able to eat. You know, you can list many things, but there's just an overall lack. Well, you don't have this new gadget, or you don't have this new car, or you don't have this, and it's just a perpetual thing that it's living out of lack rather than living in abundance is probably shorter.
I think that's excellent. I think that extemporizes quite nicely a American viewpoint that it's not about necessarily what we have, it's about what we don't have. How, you know, you need the next greatest and best instead of, like you said, living in appreciation of the things that we have in life. And I get that goes very nicely with it. That's a very good point, that because as soon as you do that, well, this guy's got it. Yeah, and that's how that starts. Thank you. Yes, over here. He's coming. He's trying to figure it out.
Growth of political identity, us versus them.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The growth of a political identity, us versus them.
Absolutely.
In other words.
Sometimes I feel like our two-party system might really be a one-party system. Like you said, an us versus them. And it does seem like we've really honed in and focused on that contention rather than the cooperation that's possible between parties. Paula, over here, Wash.
Are too likely to ignore the environment and the things that need to be done there. We feel like we're helpless, so we don't do anything, and that's the big mistake.
That's the guilt cycle right there. Absolutely. When you realize something, you see all the problems, something that you've done wrong, and now you feel guilty about it, you become a little overcome and paralyzed by that. Hugh, did we have a hand up? Okay. Yes. Anybody else? Like I said, feel free to say whatever crazy idea comes into your head, because you never know what it's going to spark in somebody else too. Trista.
We are disconnected between generations, and it goes back to them versus us. It's very much a situation of polarity, pulling further away from each other. There is a difference between being lonely and being alone, but there is tendency to be in all these different categories, to like just stick with your own group and pull away from things that are uncomfortable.
Yes, thank you. I think Kate had her hand up. We'll come over there next. You're good.
This is a continuation of what a couple of people said, but just the word greed.
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 Yes, you.
I would say it appears to me that there is a whole network of people that enjoy telling lies to the rest of us. And the goal will swallow it with line and sinker. So it's hard to argue with them too.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with a lie because you can't hit them with truth, because they're just going to weasel right around that. Hugh has something he would like to say, and then we'll come over to Chris.
I think there's not enough trust in federal government and state government. They don't trust each other enough. They don't communicate at a basic level.
Thank you, Hugh.
I think there's an overall sense of helplessness and guilt over most social justice issues when it comes to racism and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to admit you were wrong. So that is enough time spent on problems. We're going to go ahead and move forward to solutions. This is the fun part. This is where maybe we can figure out some things to do. And I want to, maybe if you're speaking more towards this specific community here, mention that. If you're speaking towards the community of the world or the U.S. as a whole, mention that as well, so that we get an idea for the frame of reference that you're going with. And so we have some hands up already. I see my mom has a hand up over there. Hugh, we'll come around to you next.
For New Year's, I said, let gratitude be my attitude. And I got out every morning thinking about that and being thankful for things. Even when I was a little girl and I spilled something when I cooked dinner and I don't waste all over the floor, it's horrible, right? But thank goodness it wasn't something worse. There's always something to be grateful for.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of people who wouldn't even be grateful that they had rice for dinner now. They'd be like, cheap rice, I don't want that. We need something else. Yes, right here.
Education.
Education.
Both, back with in the common sense.
Absolutely. You got a little clap right behind you about that one. That's how you defeat ignorance, is education. But what to do when people don't want to be educated? That's a big problem as well. Trista.
Also goes to the development of compassion and attempting to hear perspectives that are different from our own, being open, heart open to hear that.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the UU Church all over again, is because we try to do that. I mean, we're a group of people who we come in here with our own particular beliefs, our own way of doing things, but at the very least we're willing to hear each other out. You're at least willing to hear out what other people feel like. Wash.
I'd like to add education, affordable education. Too many people can't afford to go to college, and even if they do, they're carrying student debt. So.
Absolutely. How hard is it to get an education when you're faced with the idea of crushing debt just to try to make your world a little bit better? I think that's one of the greatest travesties in our world. Thank you, Wash. Absolutely. You're at the age where you're having to start thinking about that in the future, aren't you? Yeah, scary thought. Let's hope something gets done about that. We've got a lot of hands up. We're going to go with, let's get the gentleman in the back here. We haven't heard from him quite yet.
Yeah, always questioning critically about your media diet as far as your information.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not going to point out some of the bad ones, but I think we all know what some are. Aaron.
The best thing I ever did for my mental health and my relationships was stay off social media.
Absolutely. Wash. Miss Berthelot up here. Hold on, he's coming. We have to be able to hear you. Right here, one forward in the orange.
Earlier problem, I said self-protectionism, and that's rather relevant to what I'm about to say right now. I think we need to put more focus on internal rather than external causes and solutions. Internal meaning each of us within ourselves, and looking at our community right here as opposed to the many problems that have to do with out there.
I would like to just add on top of that, I think that's excellent, because it's by small pockets of change when people see something working that it starts to become bigger. And really those small campaigns are what started. Like, Wash, you have a lady right here I'd like to get to. And then Hugh, right up here in the front.
We each need to have our own sense of purpose and decide what our values are, and then support the policies and people who honor and those values.
Thank you. Wash, right back there. Yes, ma'am, sir.
It's, I think, all about who you are and what you do. All
And if you never put that idea out there, then it's already stillborn. So I think that goes along very nicely with what Ms. Berthelot said about changing ourselves before we try to change others.
I'd like to add that I think we should support not just our own children and the children in our smaller communities like our church family, but the children of our greater community. We should support, mentor, think of ourselves as role models for all of the children. I would love to see more mentors in my school, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, yeah, absolutely. Could we get to Lisa right in front of you? Yes. And then we'll come back for Aaron.
I was just going to say self-help groups and accountability circles and, really working on yourself. And then that sets an example and then inspires others and can be contagious.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, so we're going to go to Aaron, and then we're going to go in the back right over there, and then we'll hit Hugh, if you can get this gentleman right here, and then there, and in the back, and we'll have to finish there. Right here, Hugh. Yes, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, and that's all I was going to say. It starts with from within. You learn to love yourself, and then you can translate that love onto other people as well. So, yeah, is that all?
Thank you, Aaron.
Wait to come to me. Somebody else is saying.
No, it's a common refrain for a reason.
Yeah, it's here, and it's love. Like you said in the beginning. That's what it's all about. How do you combat the fear and then the negative feelings? It starts with that love, and you love yourself and love your neighbor, and come to church.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Little plug right there for our guests. Hugh?
Back in 1835, a French writer came to America, Alexis Tocqueville, wrote a very popular book called Democracy in America. And some of you are familiar with that book. And he defined America as a nation of joiners compared to the people back in Europe. He was a Frenchman. So this joining has come down. And one indication of that is church attendance in the United States, which is all-time lowest. My reading indicates that only about 30% of the population now attend church in the United States, compared to 60 or 70% only about 30 or 40 years ago. So whatever we can do to increase church attendance, I think will be part of the solution. And this church is part of that problem that I'm talking about. Church attendance in the United States has gone down, and increasing that will certainly help.
Absolutely. Versus community.
I think when he said part of the problem, it means part of the solution.
Yes. Let's hear from Barbara. Yes, because we haven't heard from her.
This has kind of been said already, but gratefulness. I know when I'm feeling bad or sorry for myself, I think about the people in Ukraine, and I think, I have a messy house, so I'm mad at myself. I mean, damn, I got a house. How grateful we are, how grateful we should be in this country, because we are all so privileged, and we've been given so much here living in the United States. And I think we forget how lucky we are to live where we do and have everything that we have.
Yes. Wash, if you would, we're going to get the two people right in the back over here because they've been waiting for a minute. So Hugh over there, and then, yes.
Can I just say that I think teaching the young folks meditation, yoga, and philosophy would be a great help. Bringing them up from the ground up, the philosophy, the old school philosophy is the best.
Thank you. Absolutely. I agree. Helps you find that peace within yourself so you can take it to your community.
One thing that I believe is extremely helpful, and I think most of the congregation here probably already recognizes this, so this is more on a macro level, but if we got outside our comfort zones and get to know people with different backgrounds, different belief systems,
different life experiences. That's one of the things that always irritated me growing up in churches and schools. People get in their fixed groups, their cliques, and if you're not in it, you feel like an outsider. And then it's easier for people to find different little things not to like you for when you're not in that group. I certainly have learned for myself, especially during the BLM movement from a couple years ago, that became larger and more knowledgeable and more awareness for all of us after Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd. I've always had black acquaintances, but I have black friends now that are truly friends, that I know they're not just, well, I have a black person that I talk to every once in a while. No, they're people I know their hopes and dreams. I know their family members. I socialize with them. When my daughter came out as gay, I had people who were in the LGBTQ community, but I didn't really know any of these folks. And I have since expanded my network and my circle, and I have a much better understanding. And so I think a lot of it is ignorance, and I do not mean that at all to be disrespectful or in a negative way, but I think for anything to ever move forward on this, we have got to get outside our comfort zones and get to know people that are different from us.
Thank you. We're going to have to go ahead and... Thank you. We're going to have to go ahead and cut the discussion off there. We're out of time. I'd like a huge round of applause for our microphone bearers, Walsh and Hugh. Thank you, guys. You did a great job. And another huge round of applause for you guys, because those are excellent ideas. Just to offer a very quick recap of some very common refrains that we've heard today. The things to combat this lack of community are self-growth, taking care of yourself and bringing that to your community, education. And I mean that in kind of a loose sense, not just scholastically, but also educating yourself as to other people's hopes and dreams. And last of all, the breaking down of your fear barriers. And these three things seem to be what we all know in our hearts that we need to do moving forward to bring back our sense of community. Thank you very much. We will now be following the video clip on the slide, and it's going to be, our closing hymn is number 318. Please stand as you are willing and able, and we will all follow along.
One.
And now for the closing words. They are by Mitch Albom. I used to be a classic workaholic, and after seeing how little work and career really mean when you reach the end of your life, I put a new emphasis on things I believe count more. These things include family, friends, being part of a community, and appreciating the little joys of the average day. We'll have a little bit of postlude music, but go now in peace. Thank you so much for joining us.